Alright, so I'm going to jump right into it. My name is Nyla, and this video is about applying to grad school, specifically in my case, PhD programs in counseling psychology. So, the first thing I want to talk about is what you need to apply. You're going to need a resume, and it's also called a CV. You're going to need a personal statement and also a research statement. You're going to need recommendation letters, and you're going to also need to take the GRE for most programs, especially this one. So I'll go over all those things quickly. Your letter of recommendations are things you really should narrow down very quickly of who is going to write you a letter, and you have to request it in advance, like very far in advance, at least 6 weeks in advance. And you want to make sure that you ask them if they can write you a strong letter, not just a letter. Because if your letter is not strong, then it could do you more harm than benefits, because you want someone who can write you a strong letter of recommendation. Make sure it's someone that knows you well enough to write a letter, and make sure that they have everything they need when you ask them. So what I did is I gathered a portfolio. So when I asked my recommenders if they would write me a letter, once they accepted, I gave them a copy of my statement, both personal and research. Gave them a copy of my resume, and so they had all the tools that they needed to write a great letter. And like I said, 6 weeks in advance at least. You really want to do like beginning of the semester. So most of your deadlines are in December. Start asking in August. It's no problem asking ahead. And if you have some people like me, some of your recommenders can take forever and wait till the absolute last minute. And I don't mean last minute like, oh, this is cutting close. I mean last minute like the day of, the hour of, the minute of the deadline. So stay on it, be patient, and have faith, have backups if you need it, and know who you're asking, Find out if they take forever, or find out if they're the kind of recommender who writes it quickly. Do your research. So that's letter of recommendation. Your essays are going to be your research and your personal statement. Your personal statement is obviously more about you as a person and the things that you have gone through, been through, will do, all of that. Your research statement is about the research that you've done, want to do, are interested in doing. There's a lot of great resources out there for both of those statements. So look into both of those and find the statement that works for you. And then your resume. Also, it just highlights your, what you've done. And really take your time on that one. Make sure that you include everything, and make sure that your resume is very well put together. Have people look over it. I had my recommenders and also faculty that I was close with that didn't write me a recommendation. I had them look over my resume as well. So get as many people involved as you can. They want you to do well. It makes the school look good. It makes you look good. So if they can find the time, I'm sure then it's a great help. And then there's also just at your university different services like career services, writing center. Look into it. Start early, because you want to have so many drafts and have it edited so many times so that it's perfect. So then the next point is the GRE. You have to take the GRE. The general GRE you have to take for sure. This test, depending on who you are and what you're made of and how you're built together, can be very difficult. I personally am a 4.0 student, and I still struggled to get that GRE down because it is different. It's a different kind of learning, and it covers so much. I would have to make a separate video on the GRE. Make sure you give yourself enough time to take it multiple times. Now, for all of you out there who are like brilliant and take it once and it's just, you're great with that score, like congratulations. That did not happen to me. I had to take it twice, and I wish I had started earlier, because my second time was kind of like, this is it. If it's not good, we're out of time, because not only do you want to give yourself time to take it multiple times, you also want to make sure that your scores have time to reach your schools, because as much as we would like to hope that all of our schools are lenient, you cannot expect them to be. So if it says it takes 2 weeks to get to the university and you don't do your test until a week before the deadline, there's a chance they will throw your application out. You wasted your money, and, you can't blame them because they gave you a deadline. So you want to do it early enough that you can get it taken care of, be comfortable with your score, and still have some wiggle room. Yes. Also, make sure to buy GRE prep tools. I bought a GRE book. It helped significantly. I also considered doing like the online courses where you get like a tutor. If I had unlimited money and time, I probably would have did it. But I am a self-supporting student, so did not have the funds for that. And I also didn't have the time. So, speaking of money, the GRE test, depending on your circumstances, if you're paying for it out of pocket, I believe the test was like $200, and do not quote me, Google it, right? But it's expensive. So I paid for it both times that I took it out of pocket, including the tools and the study materials. And then you have to also consider, and I'm very petty, but this hurt my feelings when I got there. Depending on your testing center, you may have to pay for parking. And I did not anticipate that. And it happened. I had to pay like $10 to $20 to park to take my tests. That hurt. So just know that. Give yourself time. Start early. Just do it. Just do it. Just listen. Start studying early. Give yourself time. And make sure you're comfortable with your score. Know your ideal score and shoot for it, right? Okay, so moving on. To do clinical psychology, which is what I had intended to apply for when I started the process, you have to take the subject GRE. So the psychology subject GRE. That test is also no joke. Very difficult for me. Like I said, 4.0 student, still was hard. The content is so broad, so broad, covers so many things that you just, do your best, okay? Just do your best. Also, so important to know about the subject GREs, they only happen twice a year. So you have basically one shot, maybe two if you start a year in advance. And then also, they take much longer to get the scores into the schools because they're a paper test and not a computer test. So instead of 2 weeks, it takes 6. So it's more variables involved, much more difficult test to study for, and you get one shot basically. So be on time, study, and have your money ready because that test is expensive as well. And if you're like me, which I hope you're not, don't study for both tests at the same time because I was doing the psychology and the subject at the same time, and that was very overwhelming. On top of graduation, because I did all this during my graduation semester, and on top of just regular school. So spread it out. Don't do like I did. Be better than me. So moving on. The cost for applications can range from $65 to $100. I personally only applied to 6 because that's all I could afford. But they recommend that you apply to 10 to 12 schools. If you can afford it, do it, If you can afford it and you have the time, by all means. But I could not afford it. I also did not have the time. So I only did 6, and that was expensive for me. But I made sure that my schools were ones that I actually wanted to attend, and that there was a faculty, there was a culture that I liked, and it gave me an impression that I could really, benefit from being there, and then also just endure being in that place for 6 years. Pay attention to geography. If you're not someone who wants to go and live on the coast, don't apply to a school on the coast, or vice versa. Pay attention. So you also want to make sure what the requirements are for each schools. What I did is I made a spreadsheet, and I really just literally copied what they want. So if they want a paper transcript, or if they'll take electronic transcripts, they need it official, or if they'll take an unofficial. Some schools require 2 letters, some require 3. You really want to pay attention to every little detail and make sure that you're doing everything like they said. That's so important. Also, tip, make sure that your school is APA accredited. Make sure. Okay, so after you apply, you wait. And you wait a bit. I waited a while, and I was anxious about it as well, until you hear back from the schools about whether or not they want you to do an interview. As far as I know, all universities do interviews. I'm pretty sure, yes. So that's the next thing you're waiting on. I can't even remember how long it took for me to get interview responses, and I don't want to tell you anyway, because then you're going to compare and be waiting. So just be patient. The interviews can be either in person, on the phone, or on the webcam. I had all three of those, 3 in person. And the myth that they cover the interview costs for psychology, at least, for counseling psychology, is not true. I paid for all of my traveling costs, all of my hotels, and all the costs of just being there, food, transportation. It was a very expensive time because I had 3 interviews in 3 different states within a 3-week span. So talk about last minute flights, 2 weeks in advance. Hotels, last minute. For one, I could not afford anymore, and I had to take a bus for 21 hours. So, I took a bus, plane, train. I did it all. I got there, but it was very expensive, and I had to be very patient. So those costs come very quickly, depending on how many you get. So just be ready for that and hope that they cover it. But if they don't be blindsided. Blindsided. Yes. So, that's the interview process. I would have to do a different video on the actual interviews. But I can say that just know, that you're also interviewing them. You're getting a feel for the school and the culture at the school. And it's great to put a face to the name. It's great to put a face to the other students. That's super important too. Talk to them, ask them questions, be prepared, be yourself. It's truly an opportunity for you to show who you are. And if you're not someone who's good at interviewing, practice. You don't want to be there nervous. You don't want to be there shaking and fidgeting and all that. So really practice. Make sure that you're someone who is good at public speaking. You're going to do a group and interview alone, most likely. So be ready for that. And dress professionally. I wore a blue, I call it burnt blue, but it was a blue suit. But it was very professional, and I got lots of compliments on it. I was very nervous to wear it because I don't usually wear things like that, but it really worked out perfectly. Make sure you're comfortable in what you have on and that you look professional. And I wore the same suit to all my interviews, so it was like a lucky suit kind of deal. It worked out because I got in. But anyway, so of the 6 schools I applied to, I heard back from 5. I did interviews at all those 5. And then I was accepted into 4 programs. The 5th program decided not to take any students at all. So not a complete rejection because no one got it, but that still was time and process spent, but it's okay. So, and some of those were master's programs instead of the PhD that I had originally applied for. But that is still an acceptance because they do not offer that to everyone. Let's see. So I think that covers a lot of the information. I just really wanted to share some of the lessons I learned because they hit me pretty hard. And I hope that there's something in this video that someone could take away and maybe avoid being so surprised as I was, especially financially. If you're waiting on things to come in, it's hilarious. For me, they all literally came in on the same day. I got all of my acceptances, all 4 of them, within 24 hours, 3 in the morning and 1 the next day. And that's crazy because I had been waiting and checking my email daily, and then all of a sudden here they are at the same time. Whoa, right? That happens. The interviews came more sporadically, but they were all scheduled around the same time. So I would say my last interview was like February. I don't think any of them went into March. So if you haven't heard anything by then, you may not have gotten an interview. So they're kind of in that month. And I was someone who was really anxious about, well, did I get it? Or have they sent it out yet? You just don't know. You don't. You just gotta wait. Check your email daily. Don't bother people. But check in, And I would have to do different videos for like email courtesy and all that. Oh, but I will say, after each interview, send a follow-up email saying thank you to everyone that you interviewed with. It's important. I forgot to do it for one of my schools, and I felt very anxious about it. Once I remembered a week later, like, I did not send that email, and I was like, I'm not gonna get in now. I got in, but that's not the point. The point is you do it because it's courteous and it shows them that you're still interested. And make sure you write good emails. Write emails well. So, yes, that is that. That's my video. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching.